meanwhile, but we are already there, so we can start. Dobrohodnia, good afternoon. Warmly welcome all to this Finnish-Ukrainian Waste to Energy webinar. I'm very happy to see that there are so many Ukrainian colleagues participating today in this webinar. My name is Henna Haapala and I'm from the Ministry of the Environment of Finland, responsible here to coordinate the Finnish environmental cooperation with Ukraine. And I will moderate this event together with my colleague, Ms. Sofia Shutiak from the Ministry of Environmental Protection and Natural Resources of Ukraine. Sofia, are you there?
Так, вітаю, Генну, і я хочу передати слово пану Сергію Власенко, заступнику міністра, який зачитає вітальне слово від України. Дякую. Пане Сергію, прошу вашу.
Доброго дня, шановні колеги. Дуже радий вас всіх вітати на нашому заході, присвяченому одній з найважливіших тем сучасності – реформі управління відходами в Україні. Обговорення теми спалювання відходів заради енергії, якої у нас дуже зараз не вистачає. На сьогоднішній день ми перебуваємо на важливому етапі впровадження змін, що спрямовані на створення ефективної системи управління відходами. Вона відповідатиме передовим європейським стандартам. Прийняття закону про управління відходами стало рішучим кроком до формування нової передової моделі управління, де ключовими принципами є ієрархія відходів, прозорість, відповідальність і стале управління ресурсами. Значні зусилля спрямовано на підвищення рівня екологічної свідомості громадян, впровадження розширеної відповідальності виробників, розвиток інфраструктури для сортування та переробки відходів. Однак попереду у нас ще дуже багато роботи, і наш сьогоднішній вебінар є важливою платформою для обговорення поточних викликів і шляхів їх подолання. Ваш досвід, знання та залученість до цих процесів є невід'ємною складовою нашого спільного успіху, що безумовно покращить стан навколишнього природного середовища і залишить нашим нащадкам чисту планету. Сподіваюся на плідну дискусію та активну співпрацю задля досягнення сталих екологічних рішень для всього світу. Дякую.
Thank you very much, Deputy Minister Vlasenko. Very good to hear your starting points to this situation. From the Finnish side, it will be today me who will give welcoming words from our side, and the main message we have is that it is of course a great honor for us in the ministry and in Finland to cooperate with you in building better future for Ukraine. And it is because of we have a lot of issues. We are cooperating with you also in supporting your EU parts. In connection to that line, we have launched this autumn this webinar series on waste management together with the Ministry of Environmental Protection and Natural Resources in Ukraine. I hope this the first webinar we had 2 weeks ago, it was about the overall waste management, the EU legislation and Finnish legislation, and there was a lot of participants there, and I hope it was useful for you. And the same way, I also hope that today's webinar on waste to energy incineration will be useful for your colleagues and for your experts. Finland, both at the governmental level and civil society, is strongly committed to support Ukraine now and in your EU path. Today, Ukraine is Finland's biggest development cooperation partner in the whole world. So Ukraine is getting the majority part of our support today. We participate from Finland in implementation of President Zelensky's peace formula. Finland is co-chairing the working group on environmental security together with Germany and Bulgaria. And at the expert level, Finnish and Ukrainian organizations are carrying out bilateral projects to build capacity for longer-term monitoring and production of environmental information to enhance Ukraine's capacity to assess the environmental damage of the war. And today we have, as said already, the second webinar of this webinar series, and the theme is Waste to Energy. We have the material of the first webinar available, so those of you who are interested to get this material that was about the EU and Finnish waste legislation and policy can have an access there. We will help you later on to find where you can see this material. But today, the Finnish side participants, they will present themselves when they will start speaking. But all of them are prepared to give presentations in the field of waste and energy issues. And today we have speakers from the Ministry of the Environment, from the Finnish Energy, who represents companies in the energy sector in Finland. We have from the regional level the Center for Economic Development, Transport and Environment of South Ostrobothnia. And then we have speakers one from incineration plant that is from Oulu, the city in the northern part of Finland, almost 200,000 inhabitants living in Oulu. And then we have a company presentation from Valmet, which is a technology company in energy market and in other fields as well. And Finnish Association of Nature Protection will give also a speech, and this association is the biggest environmental non-governmental organization in Finland. So, dear colleagues, thank you very much already for the questions we have received before this webinar. We will do our best to respond to the questions you have already provided, and you can, of course, provide your questions in the chat and raise your hand after the presentations during this webinar. We are here to support you in Finland. Thank you. And I think it's now time for us to start with the first presentation. It comes from the Finnish Energy. Managing Director Jukka Leskelä will give you an overview about the energy transition in Finland. I will turn to you, Jukka Leskelä, now. I suppose you are ready to start.
Yes, here I am. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for invitation to this seminar, and I hope I can share now the slides. I just wonder
we can see it. It's fine.
You can see it now, because I can't. So I have to.
we can, yes.
Let's see then if I click it. Is it changing?
Yes.
Oh, fantastic. So, yes, I represent, as Henna told, I represent Finnish Energy. We are not a company. We are an association of companies having energy activities in Finland, in electricity, generation, distribution, sales, or in district heating, or in gas. And there are a lot of companies like that in Finland, many municipal, some state-owned, some private. There is a market in these issues in Finland, and we are the voice of this industry in our society. And what we do is we aim at driving the energy transition in Finland so that we will have a sustainable carbon neutral energy system, and we tell our opinion or the company's opinion to the decision makers in order to facilitate this transformation. I was asked to give a short overview on how we see the energy transition in Finland, what are the steps, and then the other speakers will talk more about waste and energy use of waste. But first of all, I really feel honored to speak with Ukrainian colleagues. And our organization fully support you in your trouble with the massive attack of Russia. We in Finland, we had a lot of energy trade with Russia. About 1/3 of our primary energy came from Russia at the time when Russia attacked Ukraine in February 22. And now we have cut totally these imports. There is no more Russian imports to Finland, energy imports anymore. And I would say that Mr. Putin has done this forever, because we are going to phase out fossil fuels before we can have relations with Russia to have any trade anymore. Nobody wants to have Russian energy anymore back in our system in Finland. Now I hear Ukrainian speak. I wonder if that was a question or what? No, probably not.
Please continue. I think it was occasionally interrupted. Yeah.
And our companies are also providing a lot of equipment to Ukraine, and we are at the moment having a campaign in order to collect as much of we can find material and for replacing your damaged energy systems in Ukraine for the next winter. I hope this will help. We understand very well here in Finland what it means if you don't have available energy or electricity in your country during winter, and we really hope that you can get the things fixed with the energy system. But to the energy transition what does it mean? Finland as a country, we have a target that we should be carbon neutral as a society, as a country by 2035. So in 11 years' time, which means that we still have some emissions, greenhouse gas emissions, but our net sinks, the growth of the forest and so on, will cover these emissions. We are on a pathway to that. It's a very tough target, but our country has taken this kind of target, and our energy industry is fully supporting this target. What has happened this far is that the greenhouse gas emissions have been dropped in Finland rather tremendously during the past decade. We are now in the scale in 2024. The orange emissions, orange area is the emissions from the electricity and heat generation in Finland. And there is a tremendous drop in these emissions already. The violet part of the graph is the emissions from the other sectors, from transport, from industry, from heating of individual homes, from agriculture and so on. And there we see that there are still emissions. They are going a little bit downwards, but we should speed up the decarbonization if we want to reach the target by 2035. And the green part below the trees, they represent this sink, where we also have some troubles in order to have enough of growth in sinks in order to meet the target. But all in all, the energy generation as such is decarbonizing fast, and now our main concern is how to tackle the energy use side. Now I can't change the picture anymore. I wonder where I am. Now, here we go.
Yes.
How we see the decarbonization of energy system and getting rid of fossil fuels in the whole energy system, I call it a triple jump. The first jump is to decarbonize the energy production, electricity production, heat production, and that step we have mainly already taken in Finland. The second step or jump is decarbonizing the energy use, especially in transportation, in industry, and in heating, but also, of course, in agriculture and so on. And there, the method to do that is to electrify the energy use, so that we produce more clean electricity with renewables like wind and solar, or with nuclear in any way, ways of in carbon neutral ways, and use electricity in the energy consumption instead of fossil fuels, like having electric vehicles instead of fossil fuel engine, combustion engine cars, and also in industry. And then we know that there are sectors that cannot be electrified, not at least in existing technology, and there we need clean gases, which are created with hydrogen, not from fossil sources, but from water, and there will be the hydrogen economy, and that requires a huge amount of electricity because the hydrogen is mainly made through electrolysis. And this second jump has now started, and we are going ahead with that. And then the third step in this energy transition and cleaning up the whole system and chasing it is how on earth we will make this new energy system function, because the old energy system relied on fossil fuel supplies and storage, and in the new energy system we don't have these storages anymore. Practically everything is electrified. It is not easy, and there we need a set of new things, like a very lot of power grids and large market areas and flexible consumption and so on. But these three steps we need to make in order to decarbonize the whole energy system and the whole society. As I told, we have already pretty much decarbonized the power sector. This is the set of energy sources in our electricity use last year, and you see that only 3.5% of our electricity use was made with natural gas plus coal plus oil altogether, and our carbon dioxide emissions were only 33 grams per kilowatt hour of electricity, which is much lower than in Europe on average, and it has dropped tremendously, almost 90% since 2010. And we are very happy with that, but it is still ongoing. Today, the emissions are even lower from power sector. And then the heating sector in Finland, the homes, the public buildings and commercial buildings, they are heated mostly with district heating systems. Almost half of the cubic meters of all buildings in Finland are district heated. And then there is electrical heating and heat pumps, which both use electricity as a primary energy source or energy source. And if electricity is already clean, then of course the electrical heating and heat pumps are clean. Then we have a little bit of wood, which is of course renewable, and a small share of fuel oil that will be replaced with other sources. And if the district heating will be decarbonized, then also the heat in all Finland would be decarbonized. And there is also a tremendous development that has happened during last decade. We have reduced the amount of fossil fuels tremendously, so that the share of natural gas and coal and oil together is only between 15 and 20% last year. And then we have a little bit of domestic peat, which will also be mostly phased out during coming years, like all these fossil fuels. And by the end of this decade, by 2030, practically the heating is also carbon neutral in Finland. And then we have clean electricity and clean heat in Finland. These others here in the picture and is the non-renewable share of the waste incineration, and that shows that the share of waste in our district heating is altogether something like 10%. Half of it is counted as renewable and half as non-renewable. And our estimate is that the emissions from the energy sector, from the power and heat sector, will go to zero or negative by 2035, and we are very well on that track already. And the good point of this is that it has not appeared to be tremendously expensive. On the contrary, in Finland and in other countries that are already carbon neutral in the electricity system, they have the lowest power prices in Europe. So where you have as little fossil fuels as possible and good functioning electricity market, there you have the lowest price, like in Scandinavia, in the northern countries, and in Iberia. And while we have this clean electricity, which is competitive in price, the good point is that we can still increase tremendously the generation of that clean electricity, either with wind and solar and nuclear. It means that we have a lot of clean electricity available, and there is a lot of interest from industry to invest in Finland for clean production. There are a lot of companies looking for green steel production or green ammonia production or e-fuel, electricity-based, hydrogen-based fuel production. And these industries are now looking where to invest their factories. And of course, they are looking to Finland and also to Sweden, because we have clean electricity available. And this is what I wanted to say about the transition. It may sound costly because you need a lot of investments, but it will open new opportunities for the countries to have new kind of industry, new kind of industrial production, jobs, and welfare for the country. And this is how we see that this will benefit our society. And we believe that can happen in any European country, but it will of course need a lot of work and will take a lot of time. And I personally believe that while whenever Ukraine will be ready to really start the country again, hopefully after winning the war, then I really hope that we all can support you to create a clean energy system when reconstructing the country again. That was more or less my message. The climate neutral energy system is possible, and it is also a great opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jukka Leskelä. There are a lot of discussion going on in the chat side. I have tried to, and I will follow, especially when there will be questions. And thank you, Sofia, for translating them already in Finnish. Now, if you have direct question to Jukka Leskelä, he is here for a couple of minutes. You can ask now or later on. I also
yes, there are a few questions. There are a few questions in the chat.
Yeah, but
so
Sophia,
maybe I can read it.
If you please read, and it might be that
just a moment.
All of them can be answered now, so we will take it later.
What other method of waste proceeding selected?
Sorry, can you repeat it?
Українською скажу. Яким чином обирається спосіб перероблення відходів? Тобто детальніше запитують, як сегрегуються відходи, які будуть перероблятися, а які будуть спалюватися. Тобто, чи є якась така методологія? І, зокрема, акцент у запитувача є щодо палива типу РДФ. Чи є спеціальні вимоги до установок, на яких буде спалюватися таке РДФ паливо? Це запитує Геннадій Дубов.
Okay. Do you hear me still? Because I lost a little bit of the picture here, but do you still hear me?
Yes, Jukka, we hear you, and in the case there will be speakers.
Yes, we hear you.
Yeah, so there will speakers. The Finnish speakers later on can also take this question in the case it's easier that way. But if you have a comment right now, please do.
Yes, thank you. I will give only a very short answer to the issue of waste. There are better experts in this seminar than me to that. But the basic idea in Finland is that the waste is sorted in the households and in the places where the waste is born. And we separate from the waste the fractions that can be used as a product or as a material, like glass and metals and papers and board and also plastics. And we try to increase as much as possible sorting of the waste. And in the waste and the energy used is only for the waste that is not separated, and in many times this waste is also not only from the municipalities, but also from industrial sources or business sources, and the companies who run this business can tell in more detail how they work in their areas with the waste fractions. But this is the principle in Finland, that we try to separate the waste as early as possible to different fractions so that we can recycle the material rather than the energy only.
Thank you very much, Jukka. And I think that we now will continue the presentation.
Дякую.
There will be also some of the questions might be answered during the next presentation, so we perhaps take the next two presentations first and then give it the next slot for the questions. Again, it was a great opportunity, Mr. Jukka Leskela, to have you here, and please stay if you have time, and we will continue now. The next speaker is from the ministry. Here with me is Mr. Sami Rinne, who is Ministerial Advisor from the Climate and Environmental Protection Department of the ministry, and he will introduce you to EU legislation and national legislation on waste incineration. So please, Sami, over to you.
Thank you. Can you see my slides?
Näkyy.
Okay.
Onko vielä se koko ruudun?
Mulla on koko ruutu.
Mulla ei näy, jatka vain.
Okay. Good afternoon, colleagues. My name is Sami Rinne, and I work at the Ministry of Environment with mainly with industrial emissions and green transition. And I give you a short overview of the EU legislation and our national legislation concerning waste incineration. And after my presentation, my colleague Päivi will go more into the details. But I would like to start with a short reminder, which comes from the Waste Framework Directive of the European Union, that the energy recovery is not the primary option when we think about waste. So primarily, we should try to prevent it or reuse it or recycle. And if those are not possible, then energy recovery is an option. Those of you who were in the first webinar have probably seen this one. It shows the treatment of shares of municipal waste in Finland from the year 2006, and also the EU recycling targets for Finland for years 2025, 30, and 35. And the green color means recycling.
But video, the slide didn't
Sorry,
change.
the interruption. I cannot see the... Okay, yeah, now I see. Now it was starting to change. Yeah, please.
So I wonder if you see the right slide now.
I can't see any slide. I can take it to my side. Open it from here.
I'll try it.
Yeah.
Sorry for the confusion.
Se alkoi siirtymään sinne, kun poistit, niin sitten se lähti liikkeelle.
Always technical problems when you start to try to show something. Let's try. Okay. Yes. And hopefully you now see the right slide. Treatment shares of municipal waste.
Ensimmäinen slaidi näkyy.
Sen koko ruudun, se voi vaikuttaa, kun sulla on se, ei näy ainakaan mulla se, että se on se.
Mulla on koko ruudussa.
Ei nyt. Jos mä kokeilen täältä mun.
Okay, Henna will try to share my slides. Sorry
Henna,
for
I can help you and share the slides for you if you wish.
I have a little I have a little bit newer version. Not big changes, but something little. Yes, now I can see it.
Okay, please continue.
Se ei ole siinä koko näytön tilassa. Mulla on.
Ei näy nyt se.
Ei näy koko näytön tilassa. Yeah, well, the screen is unfortunately a little bit small, but I think we'll manage. Next slide, please.
Mulla on nyt se kolmio. Missä on ne?
Yeah, and next slide, please.
Okay, sitten se. Vaihtuko?
It's slow.
Ei vaihdu.
Jos mä otan koko näytön jakamisen pois, näkyykö nyt?
Nyt.
Okay. Yeah, it's very small, but let's try to use it. So, as I said, this is from year 2006, the treatment shares of municipal waste in Finland. And the green color is recycling, orange is energy recovery of municipal waste, and the red color is landfilling. So you can see that from the year 2010 onwards, the share of energy recovery was growing really fast, and nowadays more than half of our municipal waste is used for energy recovery, and only about 1% goes to the landfill. And you can also see that the EU targets for recycling will be a big challenge for us in the coming years. And next slide, please. And this is also very small now, I apologize about that. But here is the list of our solid waste incineration plants in Finland. They are in, I believe, in 9 locations, and most of them are built after 2009, 2010. So they are fairly new units. They're almost all of them use municipal solid waste as a fuel, and possibly something else as well. The main technology that is used is grate boilers. We also have one boiler using fluidized bed combustion, and one using gasification, and one old unit that is burning hazardous waste is using rotating kiln. But basically all the incineration plants, they produce both electricity and district heating. And we try to keep the energy efficiency as high as possible in waste incineration also. Next slide, please. Now here is a really simplified overview of the environmental administrative process for example, waste incineration plants. First, you need an environmental impact assessment. After that, you need there's an environmental permit process, and if a permit is granted, the plant starts operating, and the authorities will monitor that it complies with the permit conditions. And in some occasions, the permit must be reviewed, for example, if there is a substantial change in the activity. Next slide, please. Now, if we go to the environmental impact assessment, we have here is first some links to the EU and Finnish legislation. You have the slides later. And of course, the Finnish legislation must be in line with the EU legislation. Environmental impact assessment is mandatory for very large activities that may have significant effects on environment, and basically all waste incineration plants must do an environmental impact assessment before they start operating. It's a very extensive process, and it goes through various impacts on the environment and on humans. The process contains public hearings, and basically the impact assessment is meant to be used also as an information source and help for planning and decision making when one is planning a new plant. For example, you might in the assessment you might consider different locations for the plants and so on. And you need to complete the environmental impact assessment before you are able to get the environmental permit. And at least in Finland, it's the project developer who is responsible for carrying out the assessment. And we have regional authorities that will guide and supervise the process. Next slide, please. And now we move to environmental permits. Again, here's some links for the EU and Finnish legislation. And basically all waste incineration plants need an environmental permit. And it's always a case-by-case consideration done by the permitting authority, meaning that every plant is different. So every permit is a little bit different too. In the permitting phase, it must be secure that best available techniques, BAT, is applied. I'll talk about BAT later a little bit more. However, the permit does not require to use any specific technology. So basically, for example, in a permit, emission limit values are given, and the operator may choose what technologies to use to reach those targets. And as I mentioned before, if there are substantial changes in the activity, a new permit may be required. Also, the environmental permitting process is public. The material is available online, and all the relevant authorities and anyone who is affected by the plans have an opportunity to comment and make proposals during the permitting process. And if someone who is affected is not happy with the permits, they have the possibility to make a complaint against the permits to the administrative court. Next slide, please. No, it's still on the right. Okay. So here I collected some examples of conditions that are given in the environmental permit of a waste incineration plant. And as I mentioned before, there's always this case-by-case consideration by the authority. So every permit is a little bit different. So the conditions include, for example, categories and quantities of waste that are allowed to be incinerated, the maximum incineration capacity for a year, like tons per year, the minimum incineration temperature, emission limit values to emissions to air and water, and also for the noise. Pollution control measures to emissions, and how to manage the wastes that are created by the incineration, meaning different kind of ashes and slags. There's the ash content of municipal solid waste is really high, so there will be a lot of ash and slag produced in the incineration process. There are also conditions concerning the procedures in possible breakdowns or environmental incidents or accidents, and conditions on monitoring of emissions. That means also monitoring of wastes produced and noise and impacts on the environment. conditions about the quality control of the emissions monitoring and about reporting to the monitoring authority. So this is not an exhaustive list. There are just some examples. Next slide, please. A little bit more about best available techniques. Some of you may be familiar with the concept, but it's really a core concept in the environmental permitting in Finland and in the EU. What we use are the so-called BAT reference documents, BREFs, that are compiled in the EU, and they include so-called BAT conclusions. And these BAT conclusions are the reference for setting permit conditions in installation that are covered in the Industrial Emissions Directive, and this means all the waste incineration plants. And for example, when you're giving emission limit values in the permit, the emission limit values cannot be higher during normal operating conditions. They cannot be higher than the BAT associated emission levels that are given in the BAT conclusions. So the BAT conclusions are really important when giving a permit. Now, the BAT conclusions are updated, or are at least supposed to be updated regularly in the EU, about every 10 years or so. And when BAT conclusions are updated, all the permits that are affected need to be reviewed. So, for example, waste incineration BREF document and the BAT conclusions were published in 2019. Here's a link to them. And after that, all the environmental permits of waste incineration plants in Europe had to be reviewed, and they had 4 years of time to be complying with the new BAT conclusions. Next slide, please. We are reaching the end of my presentation almost. I added here some additional links if you are interested. Unfortunately, they are only in Finnish and Swedish, but I imagine Google could translate them to Ukrainian. The first link is for ongoing and past environmental impact assessment processes. The second link is for ongoing environmental permit processes, and also for past permit decisions. I wrote here a search word, jätteenpoltto, which means waste incineration in Finnish. So if you use that search word, you will find at least few environmental permits given for waste incineration plants. And the last link is for waste incineration plant information by region, and it includes yearly reports from the incineration plants. Can you skip the next slide and go to the next one? I'm basically finished, but I will just like to add that I have 2 additional slides at the very end of my presentation. I'm not going to go through them now, but if you're interested, this first one is shows the environmental impact assessment process that we have in Finland, and the last one shows the environmental permit process that we have in Finland. So if you are interested, I'm sure that other countries have slightly different processes. But now if you can go back 2 slides, and this is my finished slide. So thank you very much for your attention, and if you have any questions, I can try to answer them now or later. Jaakko.
Jaakko, Дякую.
Добрий день.
I think we will take the next presentation because it continues what we get an overview from Sami Rinne. So Päivi Karttunen, she is from the regional level authority that comes from South Ostrobothnia, there in the north from Helsinki, somewhere in the middle of Finland, and they are responsible there for authorizations and control processes. This is an authority called Center for Economy, Transport and Environment. Please, Päivi, I see you are ready. The floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Henna. Hello to all. My name is Päivi Karttunen and I'm working...
No, sorry, please continue.
Okay, thanks. I am working as head of group in Centra for Economy, Transport and Environment of South Ostrobothnia, so-called ELY-Centra. And we are both supervisory authority on environmental permits and competent authority in EIA processes. And Sami told about legislation on waste incineration, and I will continue the topic from the point of supervisory authority. Like Sami said, EIA process is mandatory for waste incineration plants with capacity of at least 100 tons per day. And the EIA process is a critical regulatory tool designed to evaluate the potential environmental impacts of proposed waste incineration facilities before they are constructed. And the EIA process ensures that the decision makers consider environmental consequences, public health concerns, and sustainability before approving the development of a facility. Then a few things about practical implementation. Project developer is responsible for the environmental impact assessment and studies, but the project developer can order the impact assessment and EA studies from the consultant, and the consultant carries out the expert work. ELY-Centra is competent authority in EIA process and supervises the EIA conducted by the developer, gives a statement on the EIA program, and gives its reasoned conclusion on the EIA report. And nowadays, pre-negotiations in collaboration with the project developer and central authorities are important for advising, harmonizing procedures, sharing information, and setting timelines. And these pre-negotiations are held usually before the EIA program, but are held also when needed. And there's a big list about central authorities which are in collaboration with project developer and this competent authority. And the main purpose of EIA program is to identify the key environmental issues and impact that need to be studied in detail and how these will be addressed in the EIA. And different alternatives need to be identified and compared. For example, the capacity of waste incineration plants can vary. And the key environmental issues and impacts for waste incinerations are like analysis of emission and their impact in local air quality, potential contamination from wastewater or runoff from the plant, impact of ash disposal and any potential leaching of hazardous substances, potential effects on local ecosystems, wildlife and protected species, analysis of the health risks associated with emissions and noise pollution, and also odors from the waste storages. Here is short representation what EIA process includes, like baseline study, EIA report, and competent authorities' recent conclusions. Waste incineration projects are often face opposition from local communities who are concerned about air pollution and human health risks, and also impacts on property values. So that's why I think that air quality and dispersion model calculation have great importance. It involves assessing the concentration and spread of pollutants in the air using mathematical models to predict their distribution and impact on the environment and public health. After the EIA process, it's time for environmental permitting. The regional state administrative agencies, AVI, handles and resolves environmental permits in accordance with the Environmental Protection Act. And there is 2 ways when installation has to be permitted. So there is directive on industrial emissions, like these, installations covered by the directive, and then other installations. Environmental permitting ensures that waste incineration facilities comply with environmental laws and operate in a manner that minimizes harm to the environment and human health. The application includes detailed information about the facility's design, waste types to be incinerated, emission control technologies, and monitoring plans. And incineration plant must meet the requirements of directive incineration of waste and PAT reference document for waste incineration, like Sami said. And recent conclusions of EIA must be considered in permitting. Authority may not grant a permit for implementation of a project before it has obtained EIA report and competent authorities' recent conclusions. And during the permitting process, the public and relevant stakeholders are given the opportunity to provide feedback on the proposed facility. And after that, permit authority assess the facility's proposed emission limits, waste handling procedures, and whether best available technologies are being used to minimize pollution. If the permit authority is satisfied that the incineration plant will meet all environmental and safety standards, a permit is issued with specific conditions. These conditions typically include emission limits, requirements for continuous air quality monitoring, and proper ash disposal protocols, like Sami said before. And before starting waste incineration, there has few things that must be submitted to supervisory authority. One is a plan for the final technical structure of the flue gas cleaning system and the chemicals to be used. And the supervisory authority reviews and approves the plans. And before installing air emission measurement equipment, a report demonstrating that the measurement methods planned for measuring emissions comply with the waste incineration regulation. a statement from an independent expert institution on the conformity of the measurement equipment with the regulation and the suitability of the measurement locations must be attached to the report. And the authority supervises that the construction and commissioning of the plant, environmental protection structures, and the emission treatment and monitoring systems are implemented in accordance with the environmental permit and legislation. And after that, the plant must use continuous monitoring equipment for emissions to air. The measurement equipment must be calibrated using parallel measurements after commissioning, and the calibration must be repeated every 3 years. Inspection tests of the measurement equipment shall be conducted once a year. And any exceedance on emission limit values shall be reported to the supervisory authority immediately. And if necessary, the incineration of waste must be stopped if the emission limit values are exceeded. We have also mandatory that all facilities that cause air emission and are required to have an environmental permit participate on regional collaborative air quality monitoring, and municipalities have the obligation to ensure the necessary monitoring of the environmental condition required by local circumstances and to secure good air quality in their area using available means. In practice, municipalities together with industry are responsible for implementing air quality monitoring in one or more municipalities. And this includes both monitoring defined in the environmental permits of the facilities and the supervision required by air quality regulations. Air quality monitoring is carried out annually, and this includes also bioindicator study, which is usually conducted approximately every 5 years. So environmental impacts are monitored continuously. Then few words of wastes from incineration. Bottom ash is usually further processed by sorting and screening, and metals are recycled, and mineral fraction is used as earth construction material and as raw material in the production of concrete elements. Waste produced by air pollution control system, so-called APC waste, that are mainly classified as hazardous waste. And this waste is mainly disposed to hazardous waste landfills and is often stabilized before landfilling. The authority supervises the emissions of the waste incineration plant into the air and the amount of waste incinerated monthly. And other emissions are mainly supervised on an annual basis. The inspection of the facility is primarily carried out once a year. And the inspection includes a review of emission measurement reports and operational disturbances. And the supervisory authority can follow the emission load of waste incineration plant over different years using a reporting system. And then I will say a few words of benefits and disbenefits of waste incineration. As a supervisory authority, I think that benefits of waste incineration are that waste replaces fossil fuels in energy production and carbon dioxide emissions are reduced. Landfilling reduces significantly, so methane emissions of landfilling reduces, and this bottom slag or bottom ash becomes renewable material, and using mineral fraction replaces natural sand on gravel. On the other hand, these benefits of waste incineration are emissions to air and wastewater and odors, though emission control techniques are used. Waste incineration can reduce material recovery, even though waste that cannot be recovered should only end up incinerated. So there is some plus and minus benefits in waste incineration. That was my presentation. Further information you can get our environment net site, like Sami said before, and I had also extra picture here in the end. There is most common environmental administrative procedures in facility projects in Finland, and you can have this later on. Well, thank you very much listening.
Thank you, Päivi, very much indeed. That was again a very good overview on these processes. We have a couple of minutes times for direct questions. Please raise your hands if you would like to ask it by yourself. I noted there was one, meanwhile you are considering your questions, there was one question about the hazardous waste issue, and we had a plan to have a presentation of an plan that is using also hazardous waste. Unfortunately, they tried everything to be able to present it here today, but unfortunately it was not possible. So I will come back to this hazardous waste issue afterwards. Perhaps they could give some brochures or some information from the plant directly that might be helpful for you. But is there anyone who would like to ask a question now? Raise your hand, and if not, you can
Так,
of course...
добрий день, я руку підняла. Калашник Олена, Міністерство захисту довкілля та природних ресурсів України. У мене таке питання, чи були та є якісь саме національні особливості, які Фінляндія внесла при впровадженні європейських норм щодо сміттєспалювальних заводів? І в чому різниця від європейських норм, якщо такі національні особливості ви привносили в своє законодавство?
Oletko sä Sami, voit ottaa tämän?
Yes. Thank you for the question. Just a moment. Okay. Yes, thank you for the question. Basically, we don't, when we think about waste incineration legislation, I don't think we have really any national specifics. It's basically, our national legislation is basically based on EU legislation, meaning Industrial Emissions Directive.
Okay, thank you. And then Sofia, I see your you are also raising your hand, please.
Так, моє питання стосується останньої доповіді, дуже детальної про оцінку впливу на довкілля. Воно зумовлене тим, що я отримала відповідь, що на сьогодні у Фінляндії є 10 заводів із спалювання муніципальних відходів і 1 по спалюванню, напевне, більше видаленню небезпечних відходів. Відповідно, не планується створення нових заводів. Тобто ця процедура ОВД, вона на сьогодні для Фінляндії вже лишається більш теоретичною. В нас в Україні є закон про оцінку впливу на довкілля. Обов'язково сміттєспалювальні заводи повинні таку проходити, але водночас в нас є виклик перед суспільством. Ніхто не хоче жити біля сміттєспалювального заводу. І, можливо, з огляду на ці ОВД, які проходила Фінляндія, можливо, ви порадите, де нам почитати ці звіти чи приклади ведення діалогу з громадськістю, і взагалі, як оце питання врегульовувалося? Чи це держава прийняла рішення місця розташування тих 10 заводів, і просто відбір відбувався так максимально приємний для людей, так, щоб не порушувати права людини? Чи це ж все-таки була ініціатива знизу, і певні органи місцевого самоврядування пропонували свої території для розташування таких заводів? Це щодо муніципальних відходів, а щодо небезпечних відходів, чи розглядали варіант Фінляндія вивезення небезпечних відходів для утилізації за межі своєї країни, чи все-таки з огляду на площу країни, кількість відходів і логістичних питань прийнятним є все-таки будівництво такого заводу всередині країни? Дякую.
Okay, there was some questions in there. I would like to ask who from the Finnish side would like to start answering. Is it Sami? You are ready? Okay. Just a minute.
Okay. Okay, thank you for the question. I will start, and maybe the next speaker can also, who is from city of Oulu, can give some share some experiences. But that is true that we are not expecting that we have at least many new waste incineration plants, because we have plenty of them, and in fact we have so many that we have problems to reach our recycling targets. During the recent years, I haven't really heard any problems related to waste incineration plants. We probably have had some doubts. The population probably had some doubts in 10-15 years ago when they started to build a lot of waste incineration plants. But after that, I haven't heard anything really. The government or the government doesn't really decide when to build or if to build waste incineration plants. So they are the municipal companies or private companies that make the decision, and authorities do the permitting. The presentation that I had, it included some links to EIA processes and permitting processes. You might find some information there about how things are done and handled, and but I guess this is my personal view, that it's been a kind of a process that when people realize that no harm has done, they start to be more, I would say, care less about the waste incineration plants. I personally wouldn't mind living next to one, because their emissions are very low. As far as I know, many waste incineration plants, they have had these like open days when public can come and visit the plants, which builds the trust between the population. But I'm not sure if I answered all your questions. So if something was left unanswered, you maybe we can continue on email or something. Thank you.
Thank you, Sami. I think that was an answer to the question, and there will be also the next speaker, as you said, who will touch this issue about the public opinion. You asked also about the exporting hazardous waste. We have our expert on waste management, Marja-Riitta, there online, and she might type a proper answer for this. But so far as I have understood, we have been more importing hazardous waste to Finland rather than exporting. But Marja-Riitta, please correct me immediately if I was wrong.
Actually, I can't remember the figures now. Is it more imports or exports of hazardous waste? But we are exporting and also importing hazardous waste, and we are following the EU waste shipment regulation, and there are certain requirements in the regulation that we have to follow when importing or exporting hazardous waste, and also then we have some requirements in our Waste Act. If a company wants to export or import hazardous waste, they have to fulfill the requirements also laid down in the Waste Act. But it's possible, and we have this one big hazardous waste incinerator plant, and I think that we are more importing waste, hazardous waste, than exporting. But I can try to find the link for this export import data, so I can link it to the chat.
Excellent, thank you so much, Marja-Riitta. And now I think it's time to turn to the incineration plant itself, and this time we have Oulun Energia, city of Oulu. Heli Heikkinen, are you there?
Yes. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you perfectly.
And I try to share my presentation also. Can you see anything? Okay. It's also this kind of...
Yes, I see it now.
Okay.
So,
hello. Well, I think you can see it. Oh, so hello, I am Heli Heikkinen from Oulun Energia, and I work as an environmental specialist here. And we are located here in northern Finland, the city of Oulu. It's by the sea and by the river, and we are kind of up north. We have long winter, about 6 to 7 months here, and the heating is needed many months. And population in Oulu is about 212,000 people. Oulun Energia is owned by the city of Oulu, and we have a long history together, 135 years. And some main points are the city has been district heated from 1969. And since 77, late 70s, we have used peat as a main fuel in district heating and electricity production. In Toppila power plant, it's combined heat and power plant. And we've been a part of waste management in Oulu since 2012. when we built this Laanila Eco Power Plant. And in this sense, after that, we have built more power plants, Laanila Biopower Plant in 2020 and waste sorting plant in Oulu also 2020. And I will talk more about this circular economy in a part of our energy production later. Something about Oulun Energia. We have areas of business are energy production, energy services, this circular economy, and electricity network services. Our customers, here you can see about 160,000 people live in district heated home in Oulu. And also we have lots of customers in electricity distribution. Also we partly own hydroelectric power and wind power, and now we are building also solar power on our own. We have 4 running power plants. Merikoski hydroelectric plant, this Toppila 2 power plant, which is combined heat and power plant and uses wood and peat. We are going to stop using peat in this energy production next year. And this waste is very important part of that. Then we have 2 power plants in Laanila Industry Park in Oulu. This waste to energy plant, eco power plant, and new biopower plant, which is combined heat and power plant, and it uses fuels as wood and this SRF fuel. And I saw that you have many questions about this SRF. I didn't include that much in my presentation, but I can try to answer questions later on. And in Laanila Industry Park, we produce process steam and heat for the local industry, and also we produce district heating and electricity in these power plants. And in Oulun Energia, this is last year's figure. Our main source of energy for now is wood and other solid biomass fuels. Then last year we used 15% of peat. This year it will be less. And waste, this SRF and wood are about 18% of our energy used. So it's very important for now for us. So our eco power plant, it's recovering plant, and we use this non-hazardous solid waste as a fuel. There are many this kind of plants in Finland, as we saw earlier, and we use about 140,000 tons waste every year. The capacity is slightly bigger than that. The power plant is running year round. We have 2 maintenance breaks, and the main purpose of the plant is to produce this process steam for the industry. But we can also make district heating and electricity. And it's good to have different kind of use for the electricity that we can make this plant successful. When we started 12 years ago, we used only this municipal waste is sorted in households and coming straight to the power plant. But today we are using more and more this kind of mechanically sorted waste, and it's rejects from the waste sorting plants. Here is the process flow charts. This is great fire combustion, and as you can see here in the first picture, we have no conveyors to move the waste around because the particle size is so, it can be anything from dust to about 30 centimeters or long particles or something. So this kind of cranes are needed for move the waste around in power plant. It took a long time to get an environmental permit for this power plant. People were very concerned about the environmental impacts of it. There were three main things. First was this, what will this plant do for the recycling targets? Second one was the smell, will it smell? And the third was this air pollutants. Are they harmful for people living near the plant? And I will talk more about how we have managed these concerns after the plant has started. First is when the EcoPower plant started, the amount of waste going into landfills reduced about 60% in Oulu. And the waste replaced coal and peat in energy production. So the impact for climate was positive back then, but it didn't do much for the recycling of municipal waste or any other waste in Oulu. So we started to plan this kind of waste sorting plant and also a new power plant that can utilize this SRF fuel. And waste sorting plant and this new power plant started operating in the same year, 2020. And we are trying to sort the waste before utilizing the non-recyclable waste in energy production. Today, about 10 to 20% of waste is recycled as a material. It's plastic, fibers, and metals. And 10 to 15% is this kind of fine dust, and it can be utilized in earthworks or in landfill closure structures. and everything else is a fuel for our energy production. The SRF is better quality. Its particle size is small, and it has a high energy value. It doesn't include any bio waste. I can put a link for the Cyklo website if you are interested. There are more information about this waste sorting plant and SRF. And today, the remaining burning waste are going to eco-power plant. It's this kind of bad quality SRF. It rejects and like wet waste, and it's not enough high quality to be burned in a combined heat and power plant. So for now, this eco-power plant is an important part of our way into circular economy, because we have to have a place where we can utilize also these rejects from the waste sorting. And next step in waste management, we are planning a plastic recycling center in Hyvinkää, Finland. And we have our target to reduce the plastic in our fuels, in waste-based fuels, to reduce also the carbon footprint in energy production, and lift up the recycling of plastic as a material. So maybe a main point is that you can't build everything at once. And for us, this waste to energy plant was a first step, and it was a good base to build up this circular economy system. But it can be the last step. Then I can tell about this smell, how we manage odors from municipal waste. The waste in eco-power plant is received in closed waste hall. It has negative pressure, and the waste air from the hall is used as a burning air in a boiler. And when the boiler is not operating, the waste air is treated in a chemical filter. We have no smell complaints when we had operate this plant. After this hall, the waste goes, you can see here this door number 3. It's here in the picture on the right. Next stage is storage bunker, about 9,000 cubic meters. And here you can see the waste crane. We have 2 of them. We have to mix the waste, and then we can feed it to the boiler. This area also has negative pressure, and the waste air is treated as I said before. And it's been working well. There hasn't been any smell complaints of our plant. Then about the flue gas treatment and air pollution. We have many processes in here. in eco power plant, also in bio power plant, it's same kind of system. We have SNCR to reduce NOx emissions. Then we have this kind of many stage flue gas treatment. We are taking the energy and utilize it in burn air and also in district heating. Then we have electrostatic filter. It doesn't do much for the air pollution, but it reduces particles in this flue gas treatment process. And it can reduce our maintenance costs in flue gas treatment. Then we have flue gas cooling. It has to be cooled for the chemicals working properly. We have chemical dosing. We use hydrated lime and active carbon to capture heavy metals and other harmful substances from the waste burning. Then there are back filters and flue gas condensers, and we have continuous emission monitoring in a stack. And in previous presentation, they were told that we have limits for all the air pollutants and water pollutants in our environmental permit that we have to meet. And I think this is pretty typical way to treat our flue gases in waste to energy plants. Then there are pictures of our ashes of this bottom slag. About 20% of waste that we burn are non-combustible. So there are a lot of this bottom slag. It contains metals, glass, ceramics, and so on. Metals are screened and recycled, and the slag can be used in earth construction. Other ashes are hazardous waste, and they are stabilized and disposed in a special landfill in our power plant also. So thank you. Hope this answers some of your questions.
Thank you very much, Heli. Indeed, this was very important to hear your presentation about, in practice, how the incineration plant operates and how you have solved the different issues that are very, very important and topical issues now in different parts, not least in Finland, but of course in Ukraine in this case. I would now like to propose that we will proceed to the next speaker and take all the speakers first and then continue with the questions and answers.
I'm sorry, Hanna.
Yes.
There are one question from the Department of Ecology of Dnipropetrovsk Oblast.
Okay.
They brought me to read this question because they have some technical problem.
Okay.
Отже, питання. Яким чином ви підвищуєте калорійність муніципальних відходів для отримання стабільної енергії? Як ви контролюєте необхідну калорійність? Дякую.
Who could take this question?
I can at least say something. Maybe Heli would like to add something afterwards, but yeah, as far as I know, yes, the calorific value, when we try to recycle more, for example, of the plastic, the calorific value of the waste that goes to the incineration, it gets lower. And I think we have seen this in Finland, and we've heard some, there have been some environmental permit applications to increase the incineration capacity to offset this. So they need to burn more to receive the same amount of energy. But this is basically what I know. So the recycling has this effect that the calorific value can go lower. Yes. I don't know if Heli or Jussi, the next speaker, if you have any comments on this.
Please, Heli, if you would like to add, there is also a question about how much one inhabitant pays for waste handling in your plant in a year. Is it something that you can specify now, or
for the first question?
Yes.
We have seen also this, that the calorific value of the waste has gone down, and also the non-burning material in it has been increased, and we just have to deal with it. maybe to say it so. We can't really control what kind of quality the waste treated in our plant is.
Thank you for answering. I suggest now that we will continue and take the next presentation. We will turn to company solution. We have a business development manager, Jussi Orhanen from Valmet company online. Are you ready?
I am ready, yes. Let me share
Please,
my presentation. I hope you start to see now. Is it visible? Do you hear me? Okay. I have some considerations on the previous questions as well. I'm sorry, I have a little bit flu, so if I cough, it will not infect you, thanks to the remote connections. My name is Jussi Orhanen. I work in Valmet as a business development manager. I'm a hands-on project developer. And here I talk and share my views and Valmet views with you about smart waste-to-energy solutions that are supporting the transition towards circular economy. And I talk about practical examples, what we are doing in different countries. This is the content of the presentation. A few words about Valmet, then our views about steps towards circular economy in waste management. I talk about Valmet viewpoint here. Then advantages of these circulating fluid aspect boilers in combustion of pre-treated waste. One case example, maybe some other case examples also, and then a summary at the end. Valmet is a leading provider of process technologies, automation and services for pulp, paper and energy industries. We have unique offering combining process technologies, services and automation. Our net sales last year was about 5 billion euros. And we are a technology company, so we put quite a lot of money every year for research and development to develop the products to our customers. We aim for market leadership in all the segments where we work, in pulp mills, in energy sector, in board tissue and paper making, in services and automation. We have a global presence, about 19,000 employees, and we are leader in sustainability by being listed in 10 years in a row in Dow Jones Sustainability Index in stock market. In energy sector, we are the leading supplier of biomass and multi-fuel boiler plants globally. And our energy business unit is focusing on multi-fuel fired fluidized bed boilers and gasifiers, as well as flue gas cleaning systems and fuel upgrades for existing boilers. Here you can see some recent references. An example, there's an example from Japan, multi-fuel fired power plant with the CFB boiler, 75 megawatt electricity, burning biomass and coal together in Japan. Example of biomass conversion, existing coal-fired power plant is converted by us to replace some of the coal with the locally sourced biomass. And an example of waste-to-energy plants, Mälarenergi plant in Västerås in Sweden. This is actually the world's biggest single-line waste-to-energy boiler, and it's burning RDF, refuse-derived fuel, 400,000 tons per year. So this is very big boiler. Another reference, I just picked this during the previous presentation, so from our reference sheets. So this is the Laanila Oulun Energia biopower plant boiler from 2020, and it's made by Valmet. So it's actually a real multi-fuel boiler, combusting biomass, peat, and then solid recovered fuel, all in the same boiler. And the flue gas cleaning system is from Valmet as well. Then our views in Valmet about this circular economy and how waste management is part of that. So this transition towards circular economy, it's a mega trend that affects all societies and all businesses. In circular economy, only the residual waste is available for energy recovery, as we have learned today also many times. And this transition towards circular economy is changing the quantity and quality of this residual waste over the years. So, like we heard today, that in Finland we are a little bit in the situation that the capacity that we have built for waste incineration is actually restricting us to reach the recycling targets, because the incinerators are in need of waste. And in Valmet, we think that any smart waste-to-energy solution today to be built towards circular economy must have high efficiency, must have low emissions, but it has to have flexibility to adapt to the changes in residual waste composition and quantity over the years to come. So it has to be built so that it is ready for changing quality and quantity of the residual waste over the lifetime of the plant. And the evolution of waste management, as we know, it goes from landfill through waste incineration, through energy recovery, and then finally through resource and energy recovery towards circular economy with full material and full recycling, chemical recycling. And technologies today are developing to move away from dumping and destroying the waste towards recovery and chemical recycling. Valmet solutions are, we are not making waste incineration plants, so our solutions are focusing on to support the road to circular economy. We start from maximized energy recovery and are developing processes for circular economy and chemical recycling. We see that the pre-treatment of residual waste is the key to resource efficiency. So the waste, different waste streams from municipalities, from industries, and from commerce, they have to be pre-treated to be turned to proper feedstock for chemical processing and for energy use as well. And in our boilers and gasifiers today, we see waste streams coming from, we see recycled wood, we see municipal solid waste as a feedstock, industrial waste, paper waste, paper mill rejects. We see fossil side streams from oil and gas industry. We see pulp and paper industry byproducts and agricultural byproducts. And common denominator to be able to use those in a smart way is the pre-treatment. Pre-treatment is typically nowadays either mechanical processing or and sieving, separating inert materials, metals, and also sizing the material to the right size for the proper combustion and the gasification processes. And also some chemical processing can be done. Do you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. This is an example.
Yes.
Good. This is a typical setup for this kind of mechanical pre-treatment line, which also Laanila Ecopark has from different suppliers. This example is from a Finnish supplier, BMH Technology, which we quite often see in front of our waste-to-energy boilers. So here the municipal solid waste and industrial commerce waste from different sources are taken into the mechanical pre-treatment line, where there is a shredding modules, there's screens and magnets, and then there is air classifiers to prepare the final RDF, which is it's kind of SRF, but it's more coarse and it's not as classified, but CFB boilers can use this just fine. Then this RDF, and you asked about the control of the calorific waste, so you can actually control the calorific value of the RDF by controlling the pre-treatment and the in-feed. So if you have several sources to source the waste streams, you can mix more high calorific value stuff with the more low calorific stuff value stuff, and by that way you can control what is actually inside the RDF bunker going to the boilers. Then this pre-treated and well done RDF is conveyed to the boiler islands, and Valmet scope typically in this project is CFB boiler plant with flue gas cleaning and then complete plant automation systems. We are focused on fluidized bed combustion technologies, boilers and gasifiers, and we have dropped out other technologies for a long time gone. And here are the main reasons. So when pre-treated waste is combusted and burned, CFB technology have a superior advantages compared to any other combustion technology. And especially when you produce electricity, with this technology you can reach very high steam temperature and pressure, which means high electricity output. And if electricity has a good value, then it makes sense. It has very high reliability, and it has excellent fuel flexibility. So this circulating fluidized bed process by nature is such that it allows rapid changes in the fuel composition, in moisture and calorific value, and it is very nicely controllable. So even with fast changes in the fuel quality, you can control it nicely so that emissions remain stable. It has also a small footprint. It has lightweight. It has lower primary emissions than other combustion types, which means that the consumption of flue gas cleaning additives is smaller than in other technologies. And it has very wide capacity range with one single unit. So you can make a small single boiler, can start from 4,000 tons per day, or you can go up to 2,000 tons per day RDF in one single boiler. So instead of building several lines side by side, you can go with the one big boiler because the availability and reliability is very good. The flue gas cleaning systems that we use after these boilers, they are in waste to energy, they are this kind of semi-dry or conditioned dry type technology, where we control the emissions, particulate emissions, acid gases, toxic gases, and heavy metals. And it is really controllable by these additives that are fed into this flue gas cleaning system. And we have our own technologies for this as well. The typical emission levels that we reach in our boilers and plants, they are very low. Here is just one example or two examples of those, but other than particulates, the other emissions are barely measurable. Here are some references, recent references. You can look at these later. This is the Mälar Energy, the big plant from Sweden that I already mentioned. There's two plants examples from China, recent references. And here is a case example, which is just now in the commissioning phase. This is this kind of smart waste to energy plant in Vietnam, our first plant in Vietnam. Investor is Thang Long Energy Environment. Location is in Bắc Ninh province near Hanoi. Drivers for this investment. Main driver is environment. There's a lot of landfilling and uncontrolled waste burning in that area, so they want to purify the air with this plant. The government has set a feed-in tariff $100 per megawatt hour for 20 years, which is attracting investors. And municipality is offering 500 tons per day waste treatment, municipal solid waste for this investor. And they are then refining value from this waste by treating 500 tons per day municipal solid waste, and then they gather 100 tons per day industrial and commerce waste, and they mix to keep the calorific value in good rates all the time. Waste is crushed, cleaned, and mixed to homogeneous solid fuel for modern circulating fluidized bed boiler. It's producing 10 megawatt electricity to grid, and it's meeting Vietnamese and European emission norms. So you can run with both emission norms if you wish. Just want to say that these are pretty long shots. So permitting and pre-engineering took 3 years for this plant, and construction took another 3 years. And now it's starting the operation with waste. So it takes time to develop these projects, and they are private investments. So then there needs to be a lot of different agreements negotiated. But this is the first CFP burning RDF in Vietnam, and we even started from permitting this with the ministry. So that's why it took a little bit time. But you can imagine how excited we now are when it starts running, and we hope to sell more of these than there. Valmet Delivery was the front-end engineering and design for the complete plant, circulating fluidized bed boiler, flue gas treatment system, and automation system DCS for the complete plant. And then finally a summary from my side. So how we see in Valmet is that refining municipal solid waste and other residual waste from industry and commerce into RDF or SRF, if you wish. It is smart because it allows good material recovery in RDF preparation phase, and it is supporting recycling instead of bottlenecking that. And you can remove the metals before the boiler in this system, so sometimes it's not very smart to run the metals through the boiler. So it is actually protecting the boiler as well from things that don't belong into the boiler. And boiler is very expensive equipment, so better to protect that. Then RDF can be used in other applications while we go along towards chemical recycling. So it is in that sense supporting transition towards circular economy in our view. And when burning RDF, it makes it possible to apply CFB boilers with high efficiency. So it fits well and may fit well with local energy needs, especially if you need electricity locally. Advantages of circulating fluid aspect boilers in RDF combustion are high electrical efficiency, low emissions, low capex, and low opex. That's the summary from my side, and I'm open for discussions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jussi. I hope that there will be questions, and then we will take them after the next presentation. So please write in the chat or be prepared to ask it after the next presentation. And then the next speaker will be from the Finnish Association for Nature Conservation, Executive Director, Mr. Tapani Veistola. I think you have been listening to a long way through and can take now your turn. So, Tapani, are you ready?
Yes, I'm. Do you hear me?
Yes, excellent. We hear you.
Yes, thank you. It is only the question whether you can show my slides, because for some reason.
I will try to do it.
Yes, but no problem. I can start even without it. So I'm representing the Finnish Association for Nature Conservation, and my comment is only very strategic. In general level, we are discussing about the material natural resources question about this whole business, and these are our own experiences from Finland. Yes, please put the next one. Yes, some words about our organization. We are the oldest and the biggest environmental non-governmental organization in Finland. So we are working in local level. We have 151 local clubs, and we are working at regional level. We have 15 regional offices, and in our national headquarters we are having staff 53 people now, and it depends, of course. Daily projects are coming and going, and we have something exceptional. We have a secretariat for international eco-energy, eco-label, and we sometimes have Ukrainian people working at our office as international training. And we are also working in international level in EU, in the European Union, by the European Environmental Bureau and Climate Action Network, and also worldwide by the International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources, IUCN. So we are working in all the levels. Thanks. The next one. Yes, and if we think about the pros and cons of incineration, so we can say that it can be useful for some special purposes, so like some hazardous substances and which are needing very high temperatures, and also waste from hospitals and such things. But in Finland, the incineration has been one of the main reasons for our failure in circular economy targets, and the big problem is, of course, that the waste and energy are businesses, especially for municipalities. So in Finland, the municipalities are usually the main owners of local waste and energy companies. And if you are making a very big incineration plants, you need lots of waste for a very long time. And they had done very long agreements to produce the waste for these burning installations. And of course, in this situation, these municipalities are investing so much in prevention, reduction, and reuse, and some other priority items in this waste hierarchy. You can see there, this is a famous picture even seen today, with prevention, reduction, recycling, recovery, and disposal. And also the overcapacity of these incinerations can lead even to the import of waste from other countries. So it is making harm both in our country and also in some other countries. So the next slide, please. Yes, and of course we are supporting, saying that we have also better alternatives. So for waste policy, it is better to develop prevention and reuse and recycling, and we have seen some good examples even today mentioned. And for energy production, it is better to develop renewable energy in decentralized way, like Eco-Energy. Ecolabel is working also in Ukraine. They are making some solar installations to hospitals, for example, our Ukrainian partners. Because the best installations like incinerators, they have big risks because they are big units. They are very expensive to build, and they are very slow to build. And on the other hand, they are easy to also to destroy. So these decentralized systems are perhaps better systems in your country. But our main lesson is that don't repeat Finnish failures in Ukraine. So please invest in waste prevention, reuse, and recycling, and decentralized renewable energy like Eco-Energy. Thank you.
Sorry for that. Thank you, Tapani, very much. And now we are ready to last part of this webinar, that is discussion and questions. There has been discussion going on in the chat and questions answered already there, but if there is now someone who would like to ask directly something there, I see Sofia Sidorenko has raised your hand. Please, over to you.
Вітання. Дякую вам дуже за презентації. Особливо дуже велика подяка останньому спікеру за його презентацію. Я би дуже сподівалася, аби це була перша презентація в цій серії, але дякую все одно, що ця презентація була. Я хотіла запитати я хотіла поставити більш візійне запитання для України, в якій наразі майже немає сміттєспалювальних заводів, немає заводів відходів в енергію. Враховуючи теперішній стан розвитку законодавства від Європейської комісії щодо вимог, щодо превенції, щодо запобігання утворення відходів, вимог щодо повторного використання і так далі, і тому подібне, ми розуміємо, що сміттєспалювальні заводи вимагатимуть постійного потоку відходів. І ми все-таки сподіваємося, що ми будемо змінювати нашу систему управління відходами таким чином, аби цей постійний потік відходів не утворювався. А ми все-таки змінювали систему на більш екологічні альтернативи, повторне використання і так далі. По-друге, в Україні, якщо подивитися на склад відходів, на морфологію відходів, то майже половина – це є біовідходи, це є органічні відходи, які є не пристосованими для спалювання, які не є калорійними, як вже озвучувалося. Далі у нас є вторсировина, яка має перероблятися, а не спалюватися, і дуже невеликий відсоток є тих відходів, які дійсно могли би спалюватися, але вони мали би на етапі дизайну продукції запобігатися і не утворюватися таким чином, аби потім іти на спалювання. Враховуючи це, чи ви би радили Україні ступати на цей шлях будівництва сміттєспалювальних заводів і закривати себе у вимогу продукувати відходи, платити за ті відходи, розуміти, що тариф для мешканців дуже сильно підвищиться, і ми, на жаль, будемо зобов'язані наступні 20, 30, 40, 50 років підтримувати спалювання тих ресурсів, які могли би бути більш ефективно використані. Дякую дуже.
Is there someone from the Finnish side who could comment this, or perhaps it would be I would like to propose, Sofia, that you repeat your question once more at the end what you asked.
If it's needed, I can speak in English and I'll be very quick. I just wanted to ask you whether you would recommend us as a country that does not have nearly that, we almost don't have the waste to energy plants, and we almost don't have incineration plants at the moment. Would you recommend us to step on this path and start building them, realizing the amount of investment, realizing that we will close ourselves in this loop of mandatory production of waste that needs to be incinerated, realizing that the tariff for people, for citizens, for municipalities will be quite high. And secondly, taking into account the morphology of Ukrainian waste as we have it, and nearly half of it is bio-waste, which isn't fit for incineration. Next part is recyclable waste. It's almost 20-30%. And then the rest almost never can be incinerated as it's not fittable. And just a little part can be incinerated. So taking into account all this, would you recommend Ukraine to step on the path of building waste to energy plants and close ourselves in this loop of needed production of waste that need to be incinerated, instead of maybe changing to reuse systems, prevention, etc., etc.?
Thank you very much, Sofia. I think there might be several views to your questions among us. Personally, I feel difficult to recommend to you in your extremely difficult situation anything that is based on our experience, where we are living in peace conditions and have different possibilities to build and plan the future. As you have heard, in Finland, yes, we aim not to build any more new incineration plants, but to start focusing on recycling and reusing and meeting the EU targets where we are now lagging behind. Very hard for me, and I'm talking as a non-expert in waste management, but anyways, you raised very good points in your argumentation, and I think that, or if there is someone else from Finland who would like to comment, Tapani Veistola has raised your hand, please.
Yes, thank you. Very good question, and I agree fully that in our view, NGO view, we can see that this incineration was one phase of this industrial history, and in Finland we are going over it. So it is perhaps useful for you not to even to make this this step, but go forward to waste prevention and reuse and all the other things in the hierarchy. So this is my view. Thanks.
If you allow me to say also,
Yes, sure.
I agree with Tapani Veistola's view. So I think it is best to make this kind of waste recycling facilities and to really pre-treat the waste that you cannot otherwise use, and then use those pre-treated waste streams for different processes. And while we talk, the processes for chemical recycling are developing. They are not mature yet. It will take time. We are also working for those. But the practical thing that works already today are these multi-fuel fired energy plants, where you can burn many kind of stuff which you cannot use anywhere else. And I think that's a kind of a good bridge to go forward, instead of building a incineration which is in need of municipal solid waste. Build something more flexible, and that would be our recommendation from Valmet.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to say that what are we to teach? So just one option for you guys.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I agree here. Of course, if it would be possible, the decision and solutions that we'll make today, they might, or we should avoid of making those kind of solutions which will lock our future for the next 50 years for something that is impossible to change. But as I said, this is quite theoretical that I'm talking here, and you have a huge everyday issues to solve there now. So we only hope that this dialogue with you and from our experts will be useful for you. Is there any other questions or something in the chat? Sofia Shutiak, if you could check if there is something that we have not yet managed to discuss. I have lost my ability to follow this chat right now.
Більшість питань розглянуті і надані відповіді. Останній коментар, пропозиція від Ігора Глущенко, Луганська область, Сєвєродонецьк. Він, я так розумію, пропонує як спосіб відновлення після деокупації розглядати ці території як місця будівництва міжнародними корпораціями таких заводів. Можливо, тут доречно сказати про безпечність. Мені здається, що про це вже говорилося, що первинно, коли вибирається земельна ділянка, вже визначається її безпечність і забрудненість. І, на мій погляд, це не зовсім коректно. Територія, яка потребує рекультивації, використовувати в таких цілях. Але, можливо, експерти поділяться з Фінляндії. Будь ласка, тут таке відкрите від нього зауваження, така пропозиція. Дякую.
Можливо, виступить, так?
Будь ласка, так, доєднуйтеся.
Доброго дня, вітаємо, дякуємо за запрошення. Я цим питанням займаюсь більше 2 років, тому що керівником Сєвєродонецької військової адміністрації було поставлено таке завдання – створити нові джерела енергії нашого міста, нашого регіону. Чому? Тому що коли відбувалися наступальні дії, насамперед, все ж таки першими ураженнями, значить, всі котельні були розрушені, була зруйнована Кремінська підстанція 500 МВт, яку нам побудував Siemens на протязі 19-22 років. Тому сьогодні Луганська область, якщо її розглядати, місто Сєвєродонецьк, Рубіжне та Лисичанськ, залишається на такому енергетичному полуострові. Тобто нових джерел відновлюваних немає. Вони всі зруйновані. Тому я прийшов до того, що треба збудувати сміттєспалювальний завод з глибокою сортировкою для того, щоб підготувати сміття до кращого спалювання. І таким чином ми вирішуємо житлово-комунальні потреби 100-тисячного міста. У нас сміття біля 2 мільйонів тонн накопилося за 30 років на нашому 10-гектаровому полігоні. Це не рахуючи сміття міст Лисичанськ та Рубіжне. Тому побудування саме такого заводу, воно вирішує всі вимоги у ЖКХ на 70%. Це саме десь 100-120 тисяч тонн спалювання на рік. Тобто саме побудування такого джерела енергії допоможе місту Донецьк розвиватися і повертатися туди громадянам для подальшої роботи і життя. Тобто стоїть завдання таке створити всі можливі джерела відновлення електроенергії для міста Сєвєродонецьк та регіону. Тому що відсутні електропідстанції, які раніше використовувались для міста і для регіону. Така пропозиція, і зі сміттям немає там жодних проблем, тому там сміття хватить на 20 років спалювати. Це тільки того, що на полігоні, не рахуючи того, що залишилось після військової агресії. Бо там ще ж 900, десь 800 будинків були зруйновані. Тобто там ще переробляти бетон та силікат. Тобто не рахуючи цих руйнувань. І з цією пропозицією я декілька разів був в Польщі на Ребельт Україна, отримав спеціальну відзнаку, тому що цим питанням я займався дуже плотно. І ми в пошуках міжнародних інвесторів і можемо це питання розглядати після деокупації. Якщо є така зацікавленість, ми залюбки розуміємо, що треба на Луганщині треба це відновлення створювати заново, більш сучасне, чим це було. Бо історично так сложилось, що ми електроенергію отримували більш з російської сторони. Тому це треба розуміти. Дякую.
Добрий день. Чи можу я говорити, пані Софія? Чи...
Ну, я думаю, що так. Єдине, що запитаємося Генну, чи дадуть відповідь пану Ігору.
Ага. Угу.
Yes. Yes.
Кажуть, щоб ви говорили. Говоріть.
Угу. А я можу говорити, так?
Yes.
Добрий день. Вітаю вас Асоціація малих міст України. Я Оксана Кирилюк, виконавчий директор Асоціації малих міст України. Наша асоціація працює у напрямку допомоги громадам у відновленні, у розвитку. І ми відкрили офіс, наша асоціація, європейський офіс в Латвії. Я якраз безпосередньо знаходжуся в Латвії з метою допомоги громадам в адаптації до європейських стандартів. Тому що досвід європейських країн, він надзвичайно важливий для українських громад, тому що Україна вже є кандидатом в Євросоюз, і тому такі вебінари, такі як сьогодні, надзвичайно важливі для українських громад. І щиро дякуємо нашим фінським друзям і, звичайно, нашому міністерству Міндовкілля за такий захід. Це надзвичайно важливо і потрібно. Ми наша асоціація пропонує партнерство, співпрацю у цьому напрямку. Так як в нашій асоціації є така потужна комунікаційна платформа, на якій вже є зареєстровано понад 12 тисяч резидентів. На жаль, в мене нема англійською мовою, але якщо потрібно буде, то я таку презентацію надам. Це платформа, як я сказала, на якій вже 12 тисяч є представників громад зареєстрованих. У нас щодня відбуваються заходи по секції, по напрямках діяльності. І, звичайно, один із напрямків – це екологія, енергетична сталість і відновлення, ну, якщо говорити з тематики сьогоднішньої зустрічі. Тобто понад 20 секцій за напрямками. І по кожній секції ми пропонуємо громадам рішення, запрошуємо фахівців, експертів, представників влади для співробітництва, для експертної підтримки громад, для презентації ефективних рішень і для обміну досвідом. І я пропоную таку співпрацю нашим фінським партнерам, асоціаціям. Я почула тут і асоціації і поводження з відходами, і асоціація по сміттєспалювальним заводам, і були представники міністерства. Тому, і звичайно, таку співпрацю пропоную нашому міністерству і проектному офісу Міндовкілля для того, щоб ділитися з громадами вашим досвідом. Я прослухала уважно сьогоднішній вебінар, я побачила, що дуже багато є напрямків, якраз це поводження з відходами, і це, звичайно, кожна тематика, ви бачите, скільки запитань було від громад, потребує уваги. Тому пропозиція до співпраці, ми готові надавати такий майданчик, запрошувати громади, робити інформування. Нас користувачі – це всі громади України, 1469. У нас пряма комунікація з громадами. І ми даємо майданчик, на якому запрошуємо в онлайн-режимі, в форматі діалогу, пропонувати тематику. Це може бути тематика якраз і сьогоднішньої зустрічі, і не тільки. І запрошувати туди експертів для того, щоб надавати роз'яснення громадам по різних темах, і якраз і по темі, яка і сьогоднішня. Я думаю, що така тематика може далі продовжуватися, тому що запитань багато. І тема поводження з відходами, спалювальні заводи – це тема буде номер 1, якраз і на шляху відновлення в післявоєнний період. Тому запрошую до співпраці і готова працювати як з нашими фінськими партнерами, так і з нашим міністерством. І ще раз хотіла подякувати за такий потужний сьогоднішній захід. Він надзвичайно важливий для наших українських громад.
Дякую за відповідь.
Дякую.
Я залишу контакти в чаті нашої асоціації, безпосередньо буду рада таким пропозиціям і готова до співпраці.
Дякую.
Дякую.
Дякуємо вам.
Thank you very much. I will comment all these speakers after the next question, and then this is the last one we will take today. But first, please, there is Gennady Dubov asking the floor, and then I will comment you all.
Доброго дня. Геннадій Дубов, фахівець з поводження з відходами. У мене таке питання стосовно використання муніципальних відходів як палива на цементних заводах. В Україні багато таких заводів, і хочу спитати фахівців з Фінляндії, як ваша думка, чи є у вас досвід використання муніципальних відходів, чи працює, чи ні? І ну, зараз у нас в Україні йде дискусія стосовно, щоб використовувати відходи на цементних заводах, чи будувати ну, такі як ТЕЦ, які будуть спалювати ці відходи. От таке питання. Дякую за відповідь.
Дякую. I think this last question will be taken by our experts. I hope so. Someone can ask you, and meanwhile I'll comment the first two questions. So to Mr. Lushenko, I hope I pronounced your name in the right way. I think that the first speaker, representative from Finnish Energy, if you have a possibility, we will provide you all afterwards the contacts of today's speakers, so you could contact Mr. Jukka Leskelä directly. The way he explained in Finland, the transition has been done so far. They are there to provide you, if it will be helpful, more detailed information about the energy mix or the solutions, different solutions we have made to get energy transition done and to get rid of fossil fuels and other aspects that has been there. A lot has been changed in Finland during the past 10 years in this regard. And solutions are also to come. So I hope that the Finnish Energy, who represents the Finnish energy sector, can be helpful for you. And to Oksana Kirilyuk, I hope I can help you in providing the contacts to the Finnish Association of Communities, and the Finnish or the Association of Waste Management. I don't know how should I translate it correctly in English, but there was in our first webinar a presentation of the Waste Management Association, and I think they could be a good partner for you as well, in the case you have not yet had their contacts. But now I kindly ask if anyone of our experts can take the question by Gennady Dubov.
Well,
yes, wait a moment, there will be Sami from our side who will start answering.
Yes, thank you. I'm not an expert on this one, but as far as I know, we have 1 or 2 cement factories that also incinerate waste, plastics and SRF maybe, and rubber waste. We can try to find you some more information on that after this event.
And thank you, Sami. In the case there is someone who can add to this reaction.
Well,
please,
may I say something?
Now, but as promised, we will have issues that we unfortunately couldn't in detail answer now, but we can comment them later on by email. Jussi has been. Are you Jussi? Would you like to answer something?
Yes. Do you hear me? Do you hear me? Oh.
Yes. Yes.
Do you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Just a short reply to previous question. In different countries where we operate and build these plants, we see quite often that this kind of RDF, or let's say pre-treatment plant, mechanical refinery of the waste is having several customers. It is having customers in cement industry, and it's having customers in power plants and sometimes in heat plants also. So for that kind of business entity, it would be good to have several customers. It would attract investors in better way than having only one single power plant customer. So I think the cement industry is a good idea to investigate. And it seems what I have learned is that you can prepare this kind of a little bit more coarse RDF for power plant nearby, and then sell the same stuff to a cement plant, and then at the cement plant you have a secondary shredder which makes it applicable for the kilns. So you can select several directions to these waste streams. Of course, it's a question of feasibility every time.
Thank you very much, Jussi. I think it is now time for us to start finalizing this event. It has been very intensive session, and I hope that there has been useful information for you. And as said, we will collect the information in a package that you will...
Скажіть, будь ласка, контакти, де бачу, контакти є, а решта контакти в кого можна буде взяти? У пані Софії можна буде взяти? Можливо, я напишу листи такі.
Це моя пошта і номер телефону.
Yes. Yes. Please, if you could ask this from Sophia's side, I will send to Sophia what we have
Після
here.
завершення заходу ми готуємо лист розсилки, до якого додаємо запис заходу, всі презентації, які ласкаво надані нашими експертами сьогоднішніми, і в презентаціях є контакти, і також я в загальну розсилку надаю імейл Генни, яка модерує сьогоднішній захід, і ви будете мати всі контакти, щоб задавати вже безпосередньо запитання напряму. Дякую.
Дякую.
Yes, thank you, Sophia. I think that we are now ready to finalize this event, and there will be more webinars to come. We haven't yet decided the date of the next one, but we will discuss this with Sophia, and you will get information from her what will be the theme of the next seminar and when it will take place. So we wish you all the best, and have a good evening in Ukraine. I recognize that there are people from different cities and different places from Ukraine. So thank you all. Дякую. Slava Ukraini.
Героям слава. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Very interesting.
Так, теж дуже дякуємо вам за таку об'єктивне представлення теми відходів, зокрема їхнього спалення. Частково інформація ця не раз вже обговорювалася, але завжди цінно почути інформацію від людей, які з тим працюють, і, зокрема, від країни, яка має теж холодні зими, як Україна, можливо, навіть ще більш холодні. Тому я сподіваюся, що всі учасники отримали певну інформацію сьогодні. Якщо ні, ще раз наголошую, контакти будуть надіслані, і ви будете мати можливість прокомунікувати, уточнити ще якісь питання в подальшому. А також Генна сказала про те, що ми плануємо майбутні ще заходи. І, будь ласка, ви маєте, зокрема, мої контакти. Якщо ви маєте конкретні ідеї, про що би ви хотіли поговорити під час наступних таких вебінарів за участі наших колег з Фінляндії, будь ласка, формулюйте таку тематику. Дякую.
Дякуємо.
Дякуємо.
And
thank you.
final thanks goes to the interpreter. Thank you very much for excellent work.